Hey everybody, Tom here. I'm out in the garage again, ready to work on the brakes today. One of the last things to do on the brakes on my list here is to bleed them. So it's going to be a little bit of a family process. Check it out.
Garage time.
Last item on the brakes is to bleed them with 2 E's. The one thing that's preventing me from finishing my brakes has been the rear brake pads. Because these are racing calipers, it does take a little longer to get the brake pads. They're finally here, so I'm going to install them now. Then we'll get on to bleeding the brakes. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you might recognize this is a new tool. It's an electric impact wrench by none other than Ingersoll Rand. So here's the story. Okay, a few years ago, I installed an Ingersoll Rand air compressor. It's a big one. It's an 80-gallon 2-stage compressor, and today it's running fine, but I've had some trouble with it. One time Ingersoll Rand came out, replaced the motor, and then it failed again in like 4 months. I ended up replacing it myself because they wouldn't warranty it anymore. And I spent, $300 on that new motor. Now it still runs. And then I made that video about my efforts, going through and troubleshooting the old one, putting the new motor on, and going through some diagnostics. And eventually Ingersoll Rand saw that video, and it's, that's a couple months old. A few weeks ago, they reached out to me and asked what they could do, and they offered to replace the motor again. And I told them the motor already is running fine. I already fixed it. And so they offered some tools, and I got these electric impact guns, which, if you can see the irony in that, leave me a comment below. But the long story, to make it short, is they reached out to me, apologized, and just told me that they tried to make amends, and that's what I got. I got some electric tools. This is a medium duty impact wrench. I think it's good to like 200 foot-pounds or something like that, but it is handy, so I'll use it. These are street compound brake material, so they should work well at low temperature. And they just nestle in there really nice into the CNC portion of the aluminum housing. So no clips or anything required. It's a super simple design, really nice. So now I put it back on. Also, the nipples have to be pointing up for the brake bleeding. Originally, I had these on the wrong side, so now that was pointed out, these do go up so the air can get out. The other thing with this Porsche brake line system is you have to disconnect the brake line when you change the pads. That's just how it is, because there's a hard line that goes here between this trailing arm. So that's nothing new. It's how all the Porsches are. This side's ready to go. Got the hard line mounted and re-torqued up. I just checked all the way from the caliper, each of these lines, all these junctions where the flex lines meet, all the way down to the junction there, the new line that goes to the tunnel, the little rubber buffer that goes there on the clip right there, and then same thing on the driver's side. All these junctions have been tightened, I think sufficiently tight. I didn't over tighten them. We'll see if they leak. Hopefully they won't. Yeah, the same is true underneath here. All these fittings are snugged down pretty tight, so hopefully we're good to go. Okay, now is the time to put the brake fluid in. Try not to spill it. This is just regular .4. You can upgrade to some higher performance brake fluid later. And actually there's not much in here. Shoot. I'm gonna have to go to the store and get some more brake fluid because that is not enough. Okay, while I was at the store getting some more brake fluid, I came back and saw that it was leaking a little bit there at the reservoir. So I've quickly taken the reservoir out, I sucked all the fluid out and cleaned up the mess. So here is the real, I think, issue. This is the reservoir and it has these barbs on it. The fuel line, or yeah, it's fuel hose, I think it's 5/16 or something. It fits really nicely over this barb and it's a good seal. This is low pressure, so I didn't think it was gonna leak. And then the lines here that I made, these are custom lines, go right to the master cylinder. And these are flared to fit the master cylinder, and the line size was kind of determined by the master cylinder flares. Then over here, this has a little barb on it that I put on there, but the diameter of this barb is a little bit smaller. It's really just a mismatch between the diameter of this tubing and the diameter of this reservoir. So when this goes on, you know, it fits kind of snug, but when the clamp goes on, it's just too loose right here. And I did have a hose clamp on there, but it either pinches the hose or it somehow disrupts this. So it turns out one of them sealed, one of them didn't. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off this barb portion and I'm gonna have to enlarge this tube so it's the same diameter as this one. That's gonna be a little tricky, but let me cut this off. That's been trimmed off. Now my idea is to take this larger portion, which is the exact same diameter as this. These two are the same diameter. And this is really, you know, you got to stretch the hose to get it over this tubing. So I'm going to attach this onto this tubing using JB Weld. It's a little bit cringy, but that is what JB Weld is for. It's an epoxy and the brake fluid won't attack the epoxy. I looked it up. This is low pressure, so I have no concerns about it. So that's what I'm gonna do. But first, I'm gonna sand this and clean the inside of this really well so the epoxy works. Here's the new sleeve on the old tubing. I think it's gonna work out better, even though it's JB welded on. That gives me a bigger area to clamp the hose clamp onto. I don't think it's gonna leak now. But unfortunately, it's gonna take like 12 to 14 hours to dry. So when you get down to the wire, these are the kind of things that really just cause delays, time delays. This was supposed to be a Saturday video, but I'm gonna have to put something else in its place. I fixed the leak on the inside, so now it's time to bleed the brakes on the rear and the front. Because it's dual master cylinders, we got to do it at the same time. So we got two helpers. Alex and Zach are here. Have you ever done this before?
No.
All right, perfect. Do you want to be on the wheels or you want to be in the car?
Wheels. I'll be in the car.
You could be the car. So here's what you do. So climb in. Zach, when I say down, you're gonna push the brake pedal as far as it'll go, but don't push too hard. Just, you know, gentle pressure, slow, like on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'll say open, down, close, up.
All right.
Does that make sense? Okay, and try not to let the fluid get all over yourself. Do you want a stool?
Sure.
Here, sit on this.
You're gonna do the
Yeah, I'll be in the back. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So open is pushing it towards the door.
Yeah.
That big door.
The left, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, and just, point it down. Just catch as much as you can in the cup. Alex, open. 15. Okay, go down, Zach. Okay, close. Up, Zach. Open. Down. Close. Up. Alex, what are you moving? Okay, so listen. You got to go. Zach, you're up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Open. Down. We just pumped a little air out of the driver's side, even though it's closer to the master cylinders. I think it was just full of air. So now we sort of half bled that side. We're going to come back to the passenger side and bleed it some more. We're starting to get a lot of fluid coming out, and Zach is starting to feel resistance on the pedal. So I think we're almost there. Open. Down.
Watch some stuff dripping under the car too.
Close. Okay, up. Okay, stop. What's coming under the car?
Over here.
There shouldn't be anything under the car.
There's like a puddle that's dripping under the car.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, Zach, I'm lifting you up. Alex, will you go in the toolbox and find the 12mm wrench? It's in the bottom drawer. Thank you. There shouldn't have been a leak underneath the car. I crawled underneath there to see what's going on, and it was the rear line right at the junction where it has that little L piece that goes through the tunnel. And it was pretty tight. I didn't want to really force it. It's real close to the steering rack, hard to get wrenches in there, a little bit of a tight spot. So rather than just keep tightening it, I didn't want to damage that brass piece, that's the factory piece. I took the line all the way off, or I took the fitting all the way off. I used a mirror to look up inside there and take a look at the flare. And using the mirror, I could tell that the flare didn't look right to me. It has kind of a, I don't know if you can see in here, it has kind of a cone. It's supposed to be a DIN flare, but it looks like it started as a DIN flare, but then it has a cone portion of it too. So the thing is compressed in, which means this flare was formed incorrectly. And it's totally my fault because I made this brake line. This is what it's supposed to look like. This was a practice piece, and there's no inverted cone on the outside portion of the flare. So this was formed incorrectly. That's why it leaked. And I'm just gonna have to remake this line. Luckily it's a short one and I have some extra pieces here. So I'm gonna do that real quick. This new brake line here should do the trick. I hope it's gonna fit. I might have to tweak it just a little bit, but this one should do the trick. This is AN on this side and double DIN on this side. Okay, Alex, you're up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, open, Zach. Down, Alex. Is it all the way down?
It's still going down. Just keep...
You can push pretty hard. Tell me when it's all the way down. I can't see you.
It's still going.
Well, push harder.
Okay, now it's all the way down.
Okay, close, Zach. Not too hard. Up. Open, Zach. Down. Zach, do you hear any more air bubbles coming out, or is it just liquid?
It's mostly liquid.
Any air bubbles or?
No, it's liquid.
Okay. So we're done with this side.
Got it.
No, we got to do the other side. So, up, Jack. Yeah, sorry, Alex. Let me just come over here. Alex, turn the wheel all the way to the left. Okay, Alex was saying the brake pedal is really hard, and he's used to driving a car with power steering. So it's my first time pushing the pedal, and yes, it is very hard. And it builds pressure immediately, so that is awesome. And take off the no push. The reason why it says no push on this was because I had bench bled the master cylinders before I hooked them up to all the lines. And that really, I think, helped, even though it took a long time to get the brakes to go, because there was so much volume, all air and all brand new brake lines. If I didn't prime those master cylinders, I think it would have been even a lot harder, or wouldn't have been able to get a very firm pedal like this. Because these master cylinders are different size, one of them is going to move a little further than the other. So right now there's a little bit of an angle to that balance bar, and when you push the pedal, it's roughly the same. I got to just adjust it so those push rods have that balance bar a little bit more level. But you can see how they're both moving. And I don't know if you can tell from the pedal, but the pedal is not bending at all. The other thing I should mention is that, I did a bunch of analysis on this pedal, and I'm going to try to deflect it one way or the other. And also that's going to put a lot of pressure in the lines. If there's a leak, I should find it. I don't know if you can see in that camera angle, but I looked at the deflection of the pedal when you push it really hard, and I can see the floor bending. I can see the pedal box moving a little bit, but that is 100% due to the floor bending. And that is probably way more pressure than you need to stop the car. I did some calculations, probably like 60 pounds would be the most you have to push on the pedal to stop and basically lock up the brakes. And I can see stuff bending, but I don't see the pedal bending at all. The pedal in SolidWorks, it was bending a little to the side. And as I was telling people at the time, the floor is the limiting factor. You cannot bend the pedal without the whole floor pan of the car just shifting around a little bit. Also, this pedal is a little too far down, so I'm going to adjust the push rods to bring it back up a little further towards the front of the car. Awesome, super excited. We are almost there. No leaks on the supply lines or on the high pressure side. With this pedal so far forward, it's a little tricky to get to the gas pedal, and there's no chance of heel toe, so this will be adjusted for sure. And there's plenty of room for those master cylinder push rods to go backward. You can see how it's a threaded, the rod there is threaded, so you just thread that in more. So you can put the pedal anywhere you want. Plus, if I need to, I can put the pedal on this side of the bracket. There's an adjustable width here on the pedal. I can move it either side of the brake pedal. Back here in the rear of the car, just looking at all these brake lines and all the junctions, there's quite a few junctions back here, and all of them are very dry. So that one there on the braided line, nothing right there, no signs of leaks at all. You can see right there where the bleed screws are, or the bleed nipples, there's just a little bit of overflow. I need to clean that off. But that's due to the bleeding process. That's not from the connection where it goes into the caliper. This side over here, same situation, nothing leaking. Okay, more good news up here at the front. I don't see any problems. This is the spot where it was leaking before. It was actually this one right here. It's a little hard to get a wrench on those. But the real problem was the actual flare that I used. I still need to put in my little white clamps. That's what keeps these lines from hitting each other. So that'll separate it out like it should. but I don't see any leaks in any of these junctions. There's 3 right there. And then into the wheel well also looks dry right there at the strut. Nothing leaking in those connections, which is fantastic. All those connections are not leaking. You can see there's definitely fluid on this side, and I don't think this banjo is leaking. I think it was just coming from up above. So I need to get some water and clean that off before it gets too messy on the calipers. Okay, this episode of Bleeding the Brakes turned out to be a little bit more involved. I had to fix a leak that I wasn't expecting on the reservoir side, and I had to enlarge the tubing and using some extra tubing. That was kind of a fiasco, but it ended up working. It's not leaking at all on the interior or in the trunk compartment. And then there was a leak under the car in just that one spot. I ended up remaking a brake line more than I intended to do, but it's working now and I have working brakes. So I am super pumped. That is what I'm after, just one major topic off the to-do list. All the brakes are done. There's a little more adjusting to do, like I talked about in the pedal position, but I need to get the clutch and the gas pedal, all those things working as well, and then I can do the adjustments to all 3. Thanks for watching. I'm pumped.